Nick Watt for that report. Joining me now to discuss, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican. Governor, thanks so much for joining us. Today you announced that your state, Maryland, is going to close non-essential businesses starting at 5 p.m. But you're not ordering a shelter in place like your neighbors Delaware and West Virginia and at least 10 other states have done. Why not?
Well, really, it's sort of semantics, Jake. I mean, certain states are taking different steps. Ours are somewhat more restrictive than many of the states that are calling it shelter in place. We've directed and strongly suggested that people stay in their homes unless they really need to leave for certain essential purposes. But we've closed more businesses than many of those states that have so-called ordered shelter in place. But we've been one of the most aggressive states in the country, one of the first to declare a state of emergency, one of the first to close schools, one of the first to close bars and restaurants, and our actions today go pretty far. We had 678% increase over the weekend in Maryland. We're taking many of the same steps that you were just talking about in New York. We're adding 6,000 hospital beds. We've got FEMA opening up a 250-bed hospital in our convention center in Baltimore, and we're doing everything we can to not only take steps on social distancing, but to really ramp up and deal with this massive crisis we're going to have with providing health care to all of these folks. And we're also trying to address the impact of the economy that you were just talking about. So we announced a number of steps today to help our small businesses and those people who are losing their jobs, which is kind of a dual attack at the same time. How do we save lives, and how do we also help people economically?
Right. Maryland has had, I believe these numbers are the latest, 288 confirmed cases of coronavirus, and 3 Marylanders have tragically died. Do you think that by not ordering a shelter in place, even though you are taking other very aggressive measures, that there might be Marylanders who are not getting the message, perhaps, in terms of the direction that you just gave, which is please stay at home?
Yeah, so actually, as I said, our closing of all those essential businesses actually goes further than many of the states that said that they were sheltering in place, but they're still making people go to work, and they still have businesses open. So we just believe that the actions we're taking are going to be more effective.
Okay.
We're also we have you can't have gatherings of more than 10 people in one place, and we have directed today all of our state and local law enforcement to actually get out there and start not arresting people, but messaging to people that they've got to disperse those crowds, which I think we're the first state to do that. We're going to start making people break up these large gatherings that we've seen, as you've seen on the reports all across the country. I'm the chairman of the National Governors Association, and we had another meeting this afternoon just before I went on the air with you, with the Vice President and 52 governors, talking about all these issues and what individual states are doing as they see fit in their individual states.
And we continue to hear reports from
what kind of help we need from the federal government.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, we continue to hear reports from hospitals, from healthcare professions, people on the front lines. They need more masks, they need ventilators, they need ICU beds, and so on. Is Maryland are you getting what you need from the federal government?
Well, no, nobody's getting what they need, and that's one of the things we keep talking about. Now, here's the good news is that's the bad news, and we can all talk about what hasn't happened, and we've heard about it over and over again. No state in America has enough masks or ventilators or any of the PPE that we're all desperately needing. We're all trying to address that in our individual states, and we're also pushing as hard as we can at the federal level. They have made some progress. The private sector is ramping up. FEMA is starting to deliver some of those supplies out to the states, and each of us are making these decisions on our own to ramp up production in our own states and to get things on the open market. But it's not a great situation, but I can tell you we are making some progress, but that's going to continue to be a pinch point where we don't have enough to handle the surge, which is why we're doing all these other things to try to lower the demand. We can't have all these people getting sick at the same time and crowding our hospitals.
And one of the things I've heard is a problem, I heard this from Governor Pritzker of Illinois, is that because there isn't like one national centralized individual or organization trying to get masks, ventilators, PPE, ICU beds, etc., for the states, you're all competing with each other. You're bidding against Illinois, who's bidding against New York, who's bidding against California, driving up the prices and not solving the problem. I think Senator Murphy referred to it as a Lord of the Flies situation. Is that a problem you're having?
I think it's a little bit of a problem, but look, I think FEMA, just as of Thursday or Friday, they made the decision that FEMA was going to take the lead at the federal level and is trying to coordinate those things and drive them out. So that's progress from where we were before. But also having the states having the flexibility to be able to go outside that process and get some of the things that we need individually is not such a bad idea. I kind of agree with both sides on the argument of this. Mm-hmm. Yes, we should be doing a better job at the federal level. Yes, they should be getting the stuff out to us, but the states have been able to go out and get things on our own, and we should be able to have that flexibility as well. So I kind of agree with both sides of the argument. And look, it doesn't matter who is responsible or should be responsible or who should have done what. We're all just going to do everything it takes at the federal, state, and local level to take action right now to try to, keep people safe and to save people's lives.
Right now, if we could snap our fingers and have everything we want, theoretically, health officials say they would want everyone to stay in place where they are, freeze where they are, and then do widespread testing to find out where the disease is, where the virus is, and then isolate those individuals. What is the state of testing in Maryland right now? I know that there are more tests now than there were 2 weeks ago, even 1 week ago. How efficient is it right now? How much are you able to get a hold on what the problem actually is in Maryland?
So it's not nearly enough in Maryland, just like it isn't anywhere else, but we're up more than 500% of where we were just a few days ago. So we're rapidly escalating the amount of tests. We've got private labs here in Maryland that are increasing the lab capacity. I think we just today just announced that we've got another 1,000 tests coming in from a Chinese company. We have Johns Hopkins in Maryland that's doing their own testing. We were one of the first states in the country to get approved, and I signed an executive order today to expedite the approval of labs so we can go around the federal process, not wait for the FDA, and to just get our own testing moving forward. And we got some additional tests in through FEMA from the federal government. So while it's still not great, it's progress, and we're far ahead of where we were, say, last Thursday or Friday.
And what about school kids in Maryland? What is the decision there? I believe some schools have announced, some states have announced that school is basically canceled till the end of the year. Some states are trying to do remote learning. What's the situation in Maryland? Have you made one as for the end of this school year?
Yeah, so I was the first or second governor in America to close all the schools statewide, and we're in the process very quickly going to try to make that decision. We've met with all of our local school superintendents to try to make sure what capacity we have for the ability to provide distance learning and online learning for our kids, and we're going to try to figure that out based on all the best available evidence. A few states have made the decision to cancel school for the rest of the year. We haven't made that yet for our K through 12. We have for all of our universities and colleges across the state.
Governor Larry Hogan, Republican, governor of the great state of Maryland, thank you for your time. Best of luck to you as you tackle this crisis.
Thank you, Jake.
Coming up next, Senate stalemate. What is holding up the nearly